back to Primetime Muscle. I'm Tim Wilkins, as always, joined by the real deal, Chris Cormier, and super promoter and IFBB pro judge, Tarek El-Guindy. Guys, how you doing, Chris?
Good. How you doing, brother?
Good, man.
Good.
Unbelievable. I'm doing fantastic. Happy to be here with my great friend, Broderick Cormier.
Here we go with the Broderick. All right.
Chris is, Tarek's using Chris's government name, as he calls it, the one that the IRS uses when they're knocking on the front door.
Google that name, guys. Just Google that name.
Hey,
Get out of here.
But with it, you'll find 75 pro shows and 14 wins?
Should have been.
Should have been.
I should have had a couple of those Arnold Classics. I'll still take those trophies, guys.
Mm-hmm. And what car was it back then?
What's that?
What car was it back then? What car was he giving away?
Oh, the Hummers.
The Hummers.
Yeah, I should have had at least 2 Hummers.
Yeah.
2 trophies.
Well,
and more
I'm sure
money.
you got those at the Arnold Classic. So let's talk about today our newest topic, Justin Rodriguez. Is he a real force to be reckoned with, or was it just a spark from last year's Olympia?
Well, I think he can be. He can be. It's he has a physique for it. He gets the graininess with his physique. Has the attributes, nice wide body. You know. I know he kind of fizzled out at the end at the New York Pro. Tarek, what do you think?
Well, I think he disappointed at the New York Pro, right? Because he was the surprise of the Mr. Olympia. He was the guy that all of us judges were ecstatic to see his improvement. And this was the year that he could have won 2 or 1 pro shows. You know, and we're talking about Blessing winning 2 shows, Hassan Mustafa winning 2 shows. This was what Justin was supposed to be doing, winning these shows and saying, hey, I'm going to crack that first call out. And all of a sudden we see him, you know, not 100% a New York Pro. I don't know what's going on with Justin. I think he was the surprise of the Mr. Olympia 2021, but we are a little bit disappointed. He should have won shows. I hope he recovers. He wins a few shows, goes to the Mr. Olympia, and becomes what he is supposed to be, one of the best.
Was it Tampa or Chicago, somewhere right around in that range, where he looked really good?
Well, I think it was Tampa last year. You're talking about last year,
Yes.
right? Last year, he was a phenomenal bodybuilder, and there was some expectations. But he exploded the expectations at the Mr. Olympia, you know, and he started moving up on the call-outs. And then when this happens at the Mr. Olympia, we feel like the guy's moving up to going into that first call-out next year. You know, hey, let's talk about Justin Rodriguez. He just won the Chicago Pro and the New York Pro. That did not happen. I want to see him back at the Mr. Olympia. I want people to talk about him like we're talking about, you know, Blessing Awodibu, Andrew Dract, and all those guys. I believe he can be one of those guys.
Maybe he needs a cooler nickname, like Boogeyman.
Yeah, I went up to him after Olympia and congratulated him on a great showing. I talked to him in the auditorium and wished him well, and I told him I was very impressed with him. And so, yeah, I was looking for him to do some real good damage this year, and yeah, I think it's just you get burnt out at sometimes, physically, mentally. Sometimes all the cardio takes a toll on your physique. But yeah, he's definitely someone I think can be reckoned with.
That cardio takes a toll on your soul.
On your soul.
So
sure.
Now you look at somebody. You remember those days, and a good competitor knows that whether it's first call out, second call out, especially the Olympia second call out, you can move up. You can move all over the place. But you get that adrenaline. You just put in 2 years worth of work to get here, 16 weeks worth of work to cut down, and they put you into that call out, and your brain says, time to go to work. It's time to battle with my posing. When he got out into that second call out and solidified top 10, what does that feel like? Because you remember the days. What does that feel like for a competitor inside to go, I gotta get this right now, right here?
Yeah, I was in the top 6 for most of my career, but I mean, it's everything you work for from a teenager on up until you get your pro card, and then you get to the top spot of the world. That's all you ever work for. That's all that's what you're thinking about those days, pushing through those workouts, pushing through those sets of high repetitions and whatever volume you're pushing at. But yeah, that's something you always dream about.
No, as a judge.
I think Chris was high every time they called him on the first call out. He was high on partying every time.
This
That's
guy.
why he never got nervous.
This guy.
The natural reaction is to get excited and nervous. Because Chris did so much partying during his 90s. He was actually, well, people don't, bring the camera right here. Bring the camera right here. Athletes and fans of bodybuilding. The creator of the after party is Chris Cormier, okay?
That's right.
This man created after parties in bodybuilding. He was never nervous. He was never ecstatic about being the first call out because he was high.
So that's what we're doing now? That's what we're doing?
Well, let's just be honest, Chris.
That's not the truth.
You know, you look at Nick
actually-
Walker.
listen.
Nick Walker, he went on the first call out. He was jumping in excitement. People get excited about on that first call out. You were just lackadaisical because you had just got done with your rave party.
Because I was good.
Oh,
Well,
God.
and then this goes back to, you got to think about this. If that's even remotely the case, it takes a special kind of athlete at that level to go out and party before, during, and after the Olympics.
Timmy.
Notorious
Let me
party
tell you,
man.
bro. Let me tell you, you guys. I was just ahead of the curve. That's all it was.
You set the curve.
Because as a kid, I was shy kid coming up, doing slow movements when I'm posing. Then when I got to the upper echelon of the sport, which was quickly, I got there, but I was still shy. I didn't want to do seminars. I didn't want to come talk to you guys out there like I'm doing now. I didn't want to do none of that. So the club was my savior. So when I get up there on the stage, I got all my clothes off, shirt off, pants down.
At the club or on
stage?
stage?
At the club.
Ooh!
At the club, baby.
All right.
And I'm posing and I'm controlling the crowd. The owners would let me come in and stay at the hotel for free because they knew I was going to put on a show in that club.
Yeah, he would probably stay in their bed too.
so then when you get up there so many times in front of people, the Olympia is just a piece of cake. And plus we're in the Mandalay Bay and that's where I was hanging.
So that's what you're recommending people to do, Chris?
Yeah, get up there.
To party like you, take posing trunks at Encore Beach Club so they can lose their stage fright.
Exactly.
Athletes and fans of bodybuilding, do not take this as a recommendation or a suggestion, okay?
Anyway.
This man is one of the greatest bodybuilders of all times, but when it comes to his social life, he was a disaster zone.
It seems pretty fun to me. So getting back to our Justin Rodriguez topic. So what does he have to do? I mean, we can all say, get bigger, build his delts, whatever it is. What package has he had before that he needs to recreate and build on?
He has all the size necessary to win shows. He has good genetics. He needs to come in condition and win shows. What we heard about him was I wasn't judging it, but he was not at 100% at New York Pro. This was the year that he should have won shows. And Chris will attest to this. Once you get that surprise factor at the Olympia, the expectations are high. And we didn't get it. Do I believe he can deliver? Yes. But I'm a little disappointed because I think he should have won one of these shows. Tampa, New York, Indy, California, Chicago. That was one of the shows that Justin should have won.
I would like to see thicker legs, more back development, more thickness in the back. And then I think that's what it takes for him.
So Justin, if you're watching, you have the size, a little bit legs, a little bit of the back thickness. Find a posing coach in a club to dance in, and you are set for the next Olympia. You just have to qualify and prepare to get naked in front of a crowd and hone your skills. I think that's what I'm taking from these two experts here. Get naked in public, pose a lot.
Get naked in public.
Not for me, from the bad element right there.
Well, from whoever you're taking it from, we look forward to you qualifying again and bringing it back.
Let's go, Justin!
Get it back. Let's go, Justin. We look forward to you being back, and we look forward to more great primetime muscle when we come back. We're back with Primetime Muscle, and one of the divisions we haven't really talked about much is men's physique. Guys, there's been a bit of a dynasty. Brandon Hendrickson, of course, it's kind of handed back and forth. Ramon Edmonds. We had the dynasty of Jeremy Buendia and a couple other guys. Mark Anthony, our first one. What is up next? Is it Aaron Banks? Is it Kyron Holden? Who do you see in the wings?
That's my category. I relate with those guys. I was a men's physique guy in 2005 to 2010. Never had a chance to compete. We were all fitness models trying to get on the cover of magazine. Tried to be on the back cover because Frank Seppi had all the covers. So Brandon Hendrickson is a phenomenal competitor. He holds a little bit of water sometimes when he's not at his best. And especially from the back. When he's 100%, he is very hard to beat. He's all around, full chest, large clavicle bones, comes down with the V-taper. He's got the detail on the back, but sometimes he has a tendency to hold water from the back. And if he's going against Aaron Banks, who has an amazing back, he's going to have problems with that. Kyron Holden actually can challenge him from the front. And then there's new guys coming up. This guy, Nicholas Coe, he won 2 shows, incredible physique. This guy, Daniel Amons, he just won 2 shows. So I think in the men's physique, more than bodybuilding and classic, we're really going to have a shake-up here. If I'm Brandon Hendrickson, if I am Kyron Holden and Aaron Banks, I'm watching. Because I think some of these young guys are going to confuse the placings.
Yeah, Karan, he could be in the classic division for me. He has a ton of muscle, great shape, love the abs. Brandon, I just think he's just so well put together. His balance is impeccable. The development is there. He has everything. He's in shape year round. I love his drive. That's really stands out to me. But yeah, like you said, there's a lot of new guys coming up that has great abs, etched out abs, and the shape of some of these guys is just unreal.
Okay, I'm still competing as a Masters competitor, and I've had a bone to pick with the division for a while. They're getting too big. Some of these guys couldn't make classic weight. They're just massive. They've got 200-pound shoulders. Yeah, down into a V-taper. So back when they set the division, it was an attainable, male model, fitness on the beach kind of look. You go back to that now with this Daniel Amons, who just won Tampa and Texas Pro. Every fiber of his body shredded to bits. And more of a tapered, more of a compact physique than the mass monsters you're seeing in Kyron, Raymond. These guys are just big.
Yeah, one thing that you have to take in consideration is the evolution of the sport. And if you look at bodybuilding, you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. Does he look anything like Big Ramy? No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Look at Larry Scott. Does he resemble any of the bodybuilders that we have today? No, they don't. So like Jay Cutler said, the evolution of the sport is happening even faster. Competitors are getting better. They're getting leaner. Now, we do punish some guys that are getting big. I think Andrew from Romania, one of the prominent Olympia guys, just lost to Daniel Amons because he was bigger than Daniel Amons.
Yeah.
His arms were massive. So we are saying some guys, hey, you're getting too big. But you can't deny that every sport has an evolution where you see, okay, you're not going to look like Larry Scott. You're going to look like Brandon Curry. And that's just the evolution of the sport.
Well, there's an evolution of the sport. And then you look at Rachel McLeish and Corey Everson, and you put them up against Sydney Gillen. And she's almost bigger. You look at some of the other, Natalia Soltero. They're bigger as figure competitors and harder than the female Miss Olympias were in the 80s. So there's got to be a definition of saying, all right, this is figure, this is women's physique, this is women's bodybuilding, this is classic, 212, and this is the size that we want our guys in their short pants.
Let's go back to bikini. If you look at bikini, Jennifer Dory won the bikini. Is she hard? We just had Daraja Hill winning in Texas. Was she hard? She's not hard. She's soft. She has soft separation on the abs, soft separation between glutes and hamstrings. Now, there are times where a competitor that's more conditioned than the criteria that we want wins a show because possibly everybody else on the lineup was completely out of shape. Does that make sense? So you have to judge what's in front of you. And a lot of times, nobody is close to the criteria. You just got to pick the person with less flaws. That happens in bodybuilding, right? We're looking at guys in bodybuilding that are not conditioned enough to win shows, but they end up winning shows because nobody else is at that condition. And then we're looking at shape, we're looking at size. It's not easy to judge bodybuilding shows. It's not easy.
Oh, I couldn't imagine how parts just start to run together after a while. Now, Chris, do you have any physique guys? Have you coached physique?
Not on the pro level, just an amateur. I'm like the gatekeeper to helping them get to a certain level. But yeah, but I do. I mean, paying a lot more close attention to the physique category. But yeah, I just think the top guys have been solidifying that top spots for a few years now.
Now, this is personal opinion, but from you, has the stigma gone away from open bodybuilding versus physique, where the open bodybuilding guys look at the men's physique like men's bikini? Like it's, because there's some good physiques in there.
Yes, I think it's lessened now. I think we got some really prominent looking solid physiques up there now in all the categories. And the best of the best is they can hold it on, probably with some of the classic guys, I think.
Well, listen, if you're a bodybuilder and you're criticizing the other categories, you really have a lot of time in your hand. Shut up and just squat, okay? Let the men's physique guys, they have abs, they're coming conditioned. It's one of the most popular classes, and if you look at Big Ramy after he wins, he is hugging all the men's physique guys and the classic physique guys. You see Chris Bumstead, he has friends who are men's physique. This is just plain dumb if somebody has any type of discrimination against another category because it's not his or her category.
Plus the guys are not wearing makeup anymore. They're not doing the eyebrows as much anymore. And a lot of guys have not so clean.
Chris, you just did makeup for about 30 minutes.
It was Chanel, our makeup artist.
Well, what do you have against makeup? You're putting Vaseline on your lips. And you're complaining how people putting makeup. If they want to put makeup, let them put makeup.
I'm not complaining.
You shouldn't be looking at their faces. You should be looking at their physique.
I know, Chris.
I just say they're less pretty and just like more like.
Let them be pretty. Those guys, they have a full head of hair. They're not bald like you. They're not fat like us. Let them be pretty. It's their time. You're just jealous and resentful of them.
I know what you're saying. My eyes are up here. My eyes are up here. Yeah. But I get it from the early on days with the eyebrows and all the pretty that went into it. But that was one of the criteria, was stage presence and being put together and having that overall male model look, as opposed to just going out.
I'm just saying it's less of a beauty contest, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's more like they come in there with their muscle now.
So who are we thinking this year? Because you've been around a couple of these pro shows so far this year.
Yeah.
Daniel Amons is a total standout.
Nicholas Coe. Guy even has calves.
Who is it?
I like that. Does that matter to you as a judge?
Let me tell you one thing. This is a good question, Chris. You don't ask good questions a lot, but this is a good one. So, people talk about calves and legs for men's physique. I can't see the legs on Brandon Hendrickson. I can't see them. But you know what they do?
Though.
You know what they do? I know he's got good legs because he gives him a nice V taper, an X frame.
Oh, yeah.
A nice X frame. If you're a men's physique guy and you have no calves, your body from far away is just going to look odd. So, and even Brandon Hendrickson admitted, I work out legs a lot because I want my waist to look small. So that's a strategy that they use, but they got the shorts. I can't see any cross striations or anything, but in the overall balance, it looks nice.
Well, you got a little medialis peeking out the bottom. You've got a nice sweepy quad that most of the guys do. I learned a hard lesson this year. You got to get the right shorts. You got to get the ones like a Dark Sport or an Alpha Elite that hug a little tighter and not be wearing your PE shorts from the 8th grade that bow out in the middle. My wife said, you got to get good shorts.
They are a little bit more tighter. They got some nice trunks coming out now can you call them trunks?
They're trunks.
Oh, some of these guys are wearing men's physique shorts. They're so tight, you wonder if they're going to be able to have kids.
They keep pulling them down.
You guys are squeezing your testicles like to the max, guys. Like I can see like wearing some nice shorts.
Yeah.
But you're just killing your jewels, man. Let them bounce, for the love of God. They want to show. I think some of these guys, they want to show they got legs, so they buy the tightest, board shorts.
Well, that's why you don't hear a lot of them talk at the press conference. They can't talk. They're wearing the shorts under their pants. So now we're talking, is it Aaron Banks? I think Aaron already had one win this year.
He won the Arnold Classic. Chiron won the New York Pro. And both of them are very dangerous.
All the time.
I think Brandon is in a dire situation. I just saw he's in Brazil with his girlfriend. Guys, Brazil is too crazy. Chris, you've been to Brazil, haven't you?
I've been to Brazil.
So Brazil is crazy. You don't want to do a prep in Brazil, trust me.
And not just the mosquitoes.
Yeah, you want to get out of Brazil because the party is intense. The lifestyle is incredible. Rafael Brandão and some of these guys, they get out of Brazil. The food is amazing. You want to get out of Brazil and focus. And Brandon is right now in Brazil. He's got a gorgeous Brazilian girlfriend. Get out of Brazil, Brandon.
Go home.
Stop partying. Stop partying. Do not be the next coming of Chris Cormier. Come back to America and focus on your training.
And Ryan Terry get back in the game. He was one of my absolute favorites.
Great abs.
To me, he was one of the physiques that symbolized the division, that symbolized physique.
He needed a little bit more of a V-taper. I thought his abs were the best abs along with Andre Ferguson. I'd like to see a little bit more of a V-taper, but he was an incredible competitor. Hey, you're going to win some shows and you're going to lose some shows. When you lose, don't hate the game. Hate the player that just beat you.
Yeah, so that's a funny thing. You said, and you said it under your breath, Andre Ferguson. You cannot write off Andre Ferguson.
Dude, I'd like to see that guy in the gym because if I could help him with that back of his, he would be a danger to everybody quickly.
Those abs, Andre Ferguson's abs might be, I think they're the best in bodybuilding right now. He has incredible set of
Come on, baby.
abs. Go train Andre Ferguson. He's a feisty one because there was a.
That's the homie though.
He was a feisty one.
That's the homie though.
Didn't he get in an argument with Brandon Hendrickson? They were gonna.
Oh yeah.
They were gonna go after each other at the Mr. Olympia. They were talking trash.
Press conference.
Press conference. Yeah. And I think that was the time both of them looked their best.
But he wanted all the smoke.
When they hated each other,
all
right?
the smoke.
Now they have girlfriends.
I love that.
And they're all in love, eating strawberries.
Yeah, me and Flex Wheeler used to go at it, but it brought out the best in our physiques because we didn't want to lose to the other guy for sure. So I think I like it all.
That's another thing that you just can't miss. It's one of my favorite parts of every Olympia. Get there a day before the Friday start to the show and go to the press conference. Last year they did a different format, kind of did almost like a fight weigh-in, where they just brought 2 or 3 people out to a mic and let them kind of trash talk and talk about what they're going to do, what their plans were, as opposed to being like you guys were seated up there like it was a UN press conference. And we go to the delegate from San Diego, and you would put in your 2 cents, somebody be eating under the table, and now it's got a more vibrant feel.
Yeah, Jennifer Doherty just brought the house down with that little style and swag she had out there. Louis down, had the purse, had the style, had the whatever.
Chris, what are you doing? What are you doing, man?
Wait a minute.
We're going to lose our jobs. This stuff.
We got to get
this is going to be a one and done for us, man. What are you doing? Can we edit this? Nico, can you please edit this? Oh, my God. Let's go on break, for the love of God.
I'll take us to break, guys. So Chris can work on his Louis pose. All right, we'll be right back with more Primetime Muscle.
You diet down, train hard, and supplement smart for months. When the time comes to step on stage, don't leave your tan to chance. Go with the pros. Pro Tan. #1 worldwide since 1987 and the official sponsor of the Olympia for the last 15 years. Don't step on stage without it. Pro Tan.
We're back with Primetime Muscle. Tarek Gilgandy, Chris Cormier, Tim Wilkins, as always, talking about the sport in every aspect. This time we're covering the Classic Physique division. Classic Physique has been dominated, absolutely dominated by Chris Bumstead, but there's a new guy on the scene, guys, that is a powerhouse that everybody's talking about, Ramon Dino.
Yes. A lot of people talking about Ramon Dino, and they're talking about, is this guy for real or is he just hype? If you think he's just hype, you need to wake up. This guy is the real deal. He placed top 5 in his first Mr. Olympia. He went to the Arnold Classic and he placed second place. He surpassed Urs Kalinske, and he surpassed Brian at the Arnold Classic. He only has 2 guys ahead of him right now. One of them is this guy here by the name of Cbum and Terrence Ruffin. When you look at this guy's physique, you got to take in consideration he's in his mid-20s and his arms are big. If there's one thing that we talked about Chris Bumstead is that maybe his arms were not up to par to his physique. Everything else is just unbeatable. But even Chris has admitted, hey, I could have bigger arms. Well, this guy can attack Chris on that department. The second thing is these pictures are from last year's Mr. Olympia. This guy has been making tremendous improvements. At the Arnold, he looked bigger, thicker, and more conditioned. And if he continues to do that, he can be the challenge against Chris Bumstead. Terrence a little smaller, great poser, he's dense, but look at the height. They're kind of like the same height, same prototype. And if you look at the back double biceps, Chris has thickness, but Ramon is a guy that if he's conditioned, he has the detail. What do you think, Chris Cormier?
Yes, he does have the detail. He does have the thickness, and like you said, the height, Terry. The arms are the one thing. I think also, if he just improves some of his posing, there's just the technical things you want to do with the posing. Let's say like the side chest. The side chest, he's not taking advantage of his physique in his pose. Chris hits the perfect side chest. That's the perfect side chest. That's the pinnacle of what you want to say.
Pulling that back pec around to get all those great striations in, to get that depth.
Yes, and if you notice, elbow to elbow, you can set up your frame and show that you have a wide frame. Dino right there is not taking advantage of that. His arm is kind of straightened and just pulling around. Nothing's set in stone. You can see the way he's grabbing and clasping his arms. The fingers are all out of whack. I just don't want to have anything from your head to your fingers to your toes. Everything matters when you set up a pose and try to be extraordinary in that pose.
Now, you set from the ground up, quad to quad, from the calves to the quads and hams, we're pretty equal.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to have to say that if you look at the definition of Chris Bumstead, separation of his glutes with his hamstring is superior than Ramon. Now, Ramon is very close. And I remind you guys, this is Mr. Olympia 2021. He has made improvements since. Now, let me go here and invade Chris Cormier's territory. That's fine. Just walk away when I arrive. I like this. So if you look at the back, this is a shot that Chris is dominating. Look at the hamstrings right here, those lines on the hamstrings. Ramon is missing that. He's improving. Now, Ramon has the detail on the back, and that was his biggest improvement at the Arnold Classic. But one thing that Chris has done, and remember when you and we used to pick against Chris and say he needs to beat Brian on the back double biceps. Look at his back double biceps right now. It's thick, it's broad. I just think that we can add a little bit more detail. Do you agree with me, Chris?
Yes, and then you can see he's taking full advantage of his height and the shape of his body. He's leaning back a little bit, as you could tell from the lower back down toward the judges. But he does have, an extraordinary difference from a few years ago.
I got to come over the top on this one. Cbum's back looks like the topographical map of Canada. It's phenomenal. It's defined. If you were to look at that pose and strip away the skin in an encyclopedia, remember when they used to have the clear plastic that would go over the body and you'd look through to the intestines and the muscles? That's the musculature system of a perfect built back. He's flawless. I don't know how anybody is going to beat him until he decides not to be beaten.
But also, I think in this pose right here, Dino, if he's not so concentrated on his glutes, contracting his glutes, he can get a little bit more definition with just that, not doing so much and pulling up on that hamstring and getting some more tension there. He's losing the tension in the hamstrings because he's concentrating on his glutes so much.
You said that about some of the open guys too, is if they would get a little more adamant about their foot position and flex their hams. But how much more? Anybody know how much more weight he has to pack into his frame?
You're talking about Cbum or Ramon?
Cbum's got to be maxed out.
Dino.
No, actually, I talked to Cbum, and he has the ability to gain, I think, 1 or 2 pounds. Ramon has the ability to gain 5 to 6 pounds.
Ramon is up to 260 pounds. I looked on his Instagram.
He is
a couple
massive
days ago.
right now. Massive.
260 pounds.
Yes.
And he's very hard. He got a nice condition.
Yeah, he's massive.
With that physique.
He might not make weight. Now, one of the things is I saw these guys this year. I went to Brazil and I shot a video for Olympia TV. Get my plug in there, Olympia TV.
That was subtle.
The link behind, okay? The link underneath it below. I shot with Ramon in Brazil. And like you said, he was thick. He's bigger, okay? So Chris might not overpower him anymore. What I think Chris still has is that muscle separation of beating that body more years than Ramon has.
No, the real deal says if he can come up with an old-timey, if Ramon can come up with an old-timey 70s, 80s mustache, he's got a clear shot at Chris.
Well, that's really going to close the gap if he adds a mustache. And maybe a mullet too, that would be great.
Give her that baby face.
Yeah.
The Brazilian mullet. So you're down there all the time. You have a huge show you promote down there in Brazil.
We have plenty of shows in Brazil. Brazil has a great bodybuilding community and great athletes. You're talking about Ramon. You're talking about another classic physique. Just won a show in Tijuana that I judge, Gabriel Zancanelli. He's phenomenal. People forget about it, but just a few years back, we had one of the greatest 212 guys, Eduardo Correa. He was from Brazil. Rafael Brindão, we were just talking about him a few weeks ago. He's just an incredible competitor.
So what is it? Natalia Coelho is Brazilian as well.
Born in Rio de Janeiro, Barra da Tijuca, if I'm not mistaken. Forgive me, Natalia.
Easy for him to say.
You know?
Exactly.
So she is Brazilian. You remember Malacarne was Brazilian.
So what is it about Brazil?
It's 220 million people, Tim, and it's so diverse. It's 220 million people. It's so diverse.
They're putting it down out there in Brazil.
Those people had been literally hiding because the other organization didn't want them to turn pro. And when Tamer and I went there, Jim said, hey, listen, go promote shows there. Let's see what we have. We saw a plethora of great competitors that never had a chance to go to the Mr. Olympia. We're talking about missing generations. Guys that could have competed against Chris Cormier, could have competed against Richard Jones. They never turned pro.
And I can know how this phone call went down. Yeah, Jim. Yeah, it's Tamer and Tarek. Okay, we're down here on the beach. Padao. Wellness division. Can we call it that? That seems like you went down there and named a division after the Brazilian woman's body.
Thick ones.
With 2 C's.
Thick with 2 C's.
So nothing against Ramon and Cbum. We love those guys. But if we're going to add a little bit of wellness to the topic, Brazil was the one where wellness started, right? The girls in Brazil, they don't like to be thin. They like to have the big glutes and the big legs. When we got there, we realized that we would be missing a lot of competitors if we didn't put on a wellness show. So we called it Wellness Model Search. The first Wellness Model Search from the NPC was in April 2018. Sandy Williamson was there. I was there. Robin Chang was there.
Anaheim?
And JM was there. All of us were looking at what this division could possibly be. And I quote Sandy Williamson. The first time she saw those girls going on stage, she said, how can this not be a division, a category? JM took the pictures, and a few years later, the rest is history. It's one of the most popular.
Now, we'll go back to these guys in just a second, but when they first talked about wellness, it reminds me of when I was at the Olympia as the MC, and they're talking about bringing in bikini. And I said, what are you going to do? Back a Camaro in and have them dance on it wet? This is silliness. And now it's one of the most beautiful divisions with the highest number of competitors. Wellness is coming on, but when it first hit the States, it looked like bikini competitors that didn't want to do cardio. Mm-hmm. And now it's defining exactly what they want to see, that perfect level of quad sweep and glutes and upper body. So it's a really beautiful division. But yeah, I applaud Brazil for cranking out so many great physiques across all the divisions.
And I'm going to tell you this. There's an optimistic part and a pessimistic part. When it comes to classic physique guys, you're going to find Brazil with about 2 or 3 guys that can make an impact. 212, about 2 or 3 guys. Men's physique, there's plenty. In the female divisions, Brazil does really well. Unfortunately, in bodybuilding, the only guy who has been able to make an impact is Rafael Brandão. It is the category where Brazil is lacking.
Why is that? Do you think that's from the overall education? Because I think the Brazilians they have the heart, they have the enthusiasm. They just got to get the knowledge and get the I don't know, top-notch training, coaching, whatever. But I know they have the physiques over there.
You know, Chris, there's something controversial about it. They're missing the great knowledge of the great coaches. They haven't had contact with guys like you, Charles Glass, Flex Wheeler, Sean Ray. They haven't had that contact in terms of training with intensity, eating with intensity. And, you know, all these stories of synthol, a lot of them come from Brazil, right? You go on the forums and all those guys with synthol. So you got to change a little bit of the mentality. What makes a great bodybuilder is lifting weights. It's not doing these crazy things to your body. Right. Lifting weights and eating well. You eat good food, you train, and you stimulate your body. So it's missing what Chris is saying, the contact with the people that know bodybuilding.
So let's circle back. Now looking at Ramon Dino, not picking apart what he needs to do, but with the improvements that he made this year, Chris, what kind of impact, where do you put him in that top 5?
It depends on how much he puts into his posing, how much he puts into all the intangibles it takes to be a great champion. I know he has a heart. I had some contact with him, speaking to a lot of the classic guys. You know, that is, you know, one of my top, you know, categories that I like to pay close attention to. But I think if he is proven his posing, that's going to be one thing right there that's going to definitely put him up a couple of notches right there.
Your Honor?
I would think Ramon, Terrence, and Chris are going to battle it out for years to come. I'm thinking that Urs Kalinski, who placed 4th last year at the Olympia, is going to have to fill up the frame. And Breon has one of the best back double biceps. He's a great poser. But I'm starting to look at Breon and see, can you maintain your legs? Can you still maintain that quad development? I know he's training with Chris. Maybe he can get a better trainer and win the Mr. Olympia.
That's how we're doing this?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just going to come down to keeping the pressure on the off season. And yeah, he comes way down to a really lightweight, 180 pounds. You got to be at his 5 and a 6.5 frame. So
and I saw him guest pose at the Daytona Classic a couple years ago, and I think he was about 197 to 205, but he was only 6 to 8 weeks out, and it was going to be a stretch to get down and cap that off at 180.
Yeah, we went over to Iraq and we had a little bit of a stomach bug, so it kind of backed up his competitional, you know, the goals he had set for himself. But I just told him, let's get the body back intact and then go for it. He has a lot of heart and he still has a lot of fight.
Breon turned pro at the USA's as a middleweight.
176.
And 1 week before that, he won the LA Championships as a light heavy, and then he won the overall. He got down to middleweight and turned pro. And then he kind of disappeared. And then when the classic physique division showed up, then he came back, and now he's one of the best. Won the Olympia twice, right?
Yeah, he bombed out.
And that's one of the great examples of creating new categories, right? We didn't have this in the 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We would have lost in the cracks a guy like Breon Ansley because he wouldn't have a place to compete.
Well, I'm a big Breon fan. I have been for a long time, and everybody has become a huge fan of classic physique, and we look forward to those rabid fans being in Vegas this year, December 16th to the 18th for the Mr. Olympia weekend, as we look forward to seeing all of you every week for Primetime Muscle. Tarek El Gendi, Real Deal Chris Cormier. I'm Tim Wilkins. We'll see you next time.